Hello and welcome to Very Interesting. I'm your host, Barry Aycorp. We've got a great show for you tonight. We've got Kenny Stroup. He's known as the Magnet, and a special guest within the show is Coach Dicky Nutt. He was the coach for Southeast Missouri State University for several years, and he's the one that gave Kenny the name of the Magnet. So you won't want to miss the show tonight. Also, a segment during the show will be Luke on location. We had some World War II planes swoop down over here at the air base right behind us, and we've got a lot of clips of that, the training sessions that they did. We've got a lot of clips of them landing, and a few of our fellow employees here at Aycorp Media got to go for a ride in some of those planes. It's been a long time in the making, folks, but I'm happy to send you over to Luke on location. It's our very first segment of that. Let's go to Luke.
Hey guys, I'm Luke Carter, and this is Luke on Location, part of Very Interesting. And I'm here at the Malden Regional Airport, and I don't know if you've noticed, but we've had these World War II Boeing-Stearman flying around all every day weekend. We've decided to come up, check things out, and see what it's all about.
Like many other events across the country, air shows fell victim to the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. And while these cancellations created a void for spectators, performers were afforded an opportunity to hone their skills that what will hopefully be the 21 season. This is exactly what brought 11 World War II Boeing-Stearman biplanes to the former Malden Army Airfield last week. Rod Hightower is the flight leader for Stearman Flight.
I'm Rod Hightower. I am from St. Louis, Missouri. I live in Town and Country, and been in Missouri most of my life, and I've enjoyed aviation since age 16. The Stearman aircraft trained more World War II pilots than any other airplane in the history of the U.S. Air Forces, Army Air Corps at the time. The Stearmans are a primary trainer, so it's the first airplane that the cadet would learn to fly in. The Stearmans were made in a large number. They made 8,400 of the airplanes. They made complete sets of spare parts for 12,500, which is why we still have parts available for them. And they're a sturdy, well-built airplane to take the punishment of teaching a young cadet to fly in a short amount of time. After the war, they were converted to crop dusters because you could buy them surplus for $200, $250 full of gas. Well, Stearman Flight, we train pilots to fly the Stearman in formation. And the FAA designates us as the signatory to provide that training, and it's required if you're going to fly a Stearman in formation in waivered airspace, such as at air shows or over stadium flyover events. You have to be certified by us to be able to do that, and you have to maintain proficiency. So we provide dedicated instruction around the U.S. to those pilots who are going to fly their Stearman airplanes in formation. And then each year, this week each year, we have a fun gathering of kind of our instructor community to do advanced formation flying and perfect some of our techniques and raise our game, if you will, in terms of proficiency for the things that are hard and complex to do. We had 11 airplanes here this week, which is a good gathering of Stearmans, because Stearmans are, fairly slow airplanes, so they don't really travel very far distances really well. It's a lot of work to get one across the country, so we regionalize our activities to be close. So we've got Stearmans here from Illinois, Missouri, Mississippi, Florida, and we have 2 from Nevada, if you could imagine that.
In 1941, the 2,900 acres of land north of Malden, Missouri consisted of a few houses, barns, trees, and lots of cotton fields. As the United States entered the war against Japan and Germany, the need for fighter pilots grew, as did the need for additional training facilities. The War Department purchased the property north of Malden, and in the fall of 1942, construction began on Malden Army Airfield, the new installation of the Eastern Flying Training Command. The first class of cadets graduated in July 1943 and were transferred to other bases for advanced flight training. When the war came to an end, the number of training fields was reduced and the airfield was deactivated. It was reactivated in 1951 as the Malden Air Base to help train the next generation of aviators to serve in the Korean War. When it was deactivated again in 1960, the former military airfield was turned over to the city of Malden, and it now serves as a regional airport and industrial park.
This is a historic air base. You know, this was an Army Air Corps base in War II, training War II pilots, and then had a training career after the war, which means it's got big, wide, and long runways, and you can almost always get your airplane pointed into the wind, no matter which way the wind's blowing at one of these air bases. And we came here for that. So the great facility, the great runway, the great activity, close by all of us. We try to do something fun. You know, one of the things that we love about Malden is the community really welcomed us here with open arms. They've been good to us and they've made it fun for us, so we thought the least we can do is make it fun for them. So we received an invitation to fly over the Friday night football game. So the Malden Green Wave, we couldn't bring them enough luck to win, but we flew over the stadium Friday night. The good folks at Dexter invited us up for breakfast on Saturday morning, so we all flew up to Dexter and celebrated breakfast there. Yesterday we flew to Sykeston and had a little fun with, you know, the Lambert's Throwed Rolls, so we're experiencing some of the local fun, and we bring a little fun to the event too. You know, kids are fascinated by the bright colors of these things, right? It's kind of an interesting visual for a kid, and always introducing something new to kids is a good thing. Maybe it'll inspire them to be an aviator one day, but if nothing else, it lets them understand the world that they're in a little better. As well, you know, our mission is to provide safety and formation. That's the Stearman flight mission. But as an aviator and as someone very enthusiastic about growing, you know, the passion that we have for aviation is sharing it with others and inspiring others. And we hear it a lot in aviation, some of the misperceptions about it. I could never afford to fly. If you own an airplane, you must be rich. Not true. And it's really important for children to recognize that it's a lot more accessible than you might think. And there are community events in the aviation community who give young people free rides. At the EAA Young Eagles program, if you're between the ages of 8 and 18, you get a free ride on an airplane. So we are big flyers of EAA Young Eagles, and we've flown a lot of kids in that program.
Well, that was fun. We're done here with Luke on location. We'll see you next time. Barry, it's back to you in the studio.
All right, Coach Dicky Nutt, welcome to Very Interesting. It's a new show that we've come up with here in Southeast Missouri for some local interest stories. And since you're friends with our guest today, Kenny Stroup, you were a good selection to be on the show because you're the one that gave him his nickname. So legendary Coach Dicky Nutt, welcome to Southeast Missouri.
Barry, thank you for having me, and what a great idea that you're doing here. Very interesting. That's a great title.
It's a little pun and a little cheesy, but it's working so far for the last 3 weeks.
Oh, it's great.
So Kenny Stroup, we're interviewing him here today in our studio. You're going to be our next interview, so be sure and put us on your calendar. But today we're focusing on Kenny Stroup. How did you meet Kenny Stroup? Was it when you were at Southeast Missouri State as the head coach?
Yes, it's an amazing story that Kenny is a special guy. I was doing a radio show, I think, there at Dexter's Barbecue one day, and we had a fairly crowded restaurant there. And I got through talking, and I talked to some of the boosters and ticket holders while I was walking out, and then this guy came up to me and goes, "Hey, my name's Kenny Stroup." I said, "Hey, Kenny, how you doing?" He said, "Man, I just wanted to meet you and say hello to you." And, and just immediately I was drawn to him because just maybe just his personality, just his charisma, just whatever he was trying to tell me, I was just kind of drawn to him. And I said, "Well, Kenny, nice to meet you, but I got to run. I got to get to practice, but you're more than welcome to come by practice one day." And the next thing I knew is he showed up at practice. And I walk out on the floor, and I got about 8 players standing over there in a huddle, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on with these guys. These guys, Antonius Cleveland, all those guys. Look, Tyler Stone, Lucas Nutt, they're all gathered around in a huddle. And I said, "Hey," and I kind of blew the whistle. I said, "Hey, let's go to work. You ought to be shooting jumpers or something, getting warmed up." And they all scattered, and when they did, they scattered away from Kenny Stroup. And so there he was standing on the middle of the floor, or on the side over there. And I walked over there and I said, "Kenny, what in the world are you doing?" He said, "I just wanted to come out. I met some of your players." And so from then, I don't know when it was, maybe a week later or something, he wanted to do a lunch or something. I said, "Hey, meet me over there with my good buddy, Brian over there at Chick-fil-A, and we'll have something to eat." for lunch. So when I showed up over there, I walked in and there was 4 or 5 people gathered around. I didn't have any idea what they were doing. And then they scattered, and there was Kenny Stroup. And I said, Kenny, you're like a magnet. Everywhere I go, people just kind of grow to you. And that's kind of how I got started. So everywhere we go together, the next thing you know, he's got 4 or 5 people talking to him. And I'd walk away and I'd say, hey, you know those people? No, sir. Never met them. But he has that kind of personality. He's a special guy. And that's how he came up with the name Magnet.
So that's how the Magnet was born. Now we got bobbleheads, T-shirts of the Magnet, and the rest is history. So you caused all this craze.
I don't know about that, but I'll tell you this: when I was at Southeast Missouri State, if I think our Coliseum there, the Show Me Center, held about 6,000 people. Let me tell you, if we had 6,000 like Kenny Stroup, I'd still be the coach over there. But
he is a very loyal friend. He's a very loyal supporter. I mean, he'll go to the mat for you if he's a friend of yours. So he's been a big supporter of yours for a long time. And I want to thank you for beaming in on his interview today. Thank you very much, Coach.
Well, you're more than welcome, Barry, and good luck to you. And anything I can do for you, let me know.
Legendary Coach Dicky Nutt, thank you for joining us today.
You bet. See you, Barry.
Thank you. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Very Interesting, where I bring topics that I find interesting to your living room. On today's episode, I'm joined by Kenny the Magnet Stroup. He joins us to talk about his life, his interaction with celebrities, sporting celebrities, movie stars, millions of autographs. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Great to have you today. I think people are going to find this interesting because you've interacted with so many people in your life. All of them are not celebrities. Some of them are just plain ordinary people that you're proud of, that you've become friends with. But first, tell us about, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
Grew up in St. Louis County, and a lot of experiences even at the age of 10 when we left, and we left there and went to the state of Michigan.
So you grew up in Michigan from 10 years old to you're 18?
Basically more living in the state of Michigan, and a lot of experiences. Also, when I left St. Louis County to go into the state of Michigan, a lot of experiences up there as well, Barry.
Now you live in Dexter?
Live in Dexter. That's where I'm at right now.
Well, I know your parents were a big inspiration to you when you were growing up and still today. So tell me a little bit about your mom and dad.
Great parents, again, big influence, like you say, with both of them. Taught me well, I feel, as far as my life is more or less, again, bringing us up in a Christian home. You can't beat it when it comes down to it. And surroundings of our life was, to be able to have a life to where you can more or less be spiritual. They were gospel singers for 55 years of their life, and if that's not an influence, impact on your life, I don't know what would be.
I know your dad and you had a lot in common, country music and things like that.
Absolutely, and when I would go to an event, most time he was with me, and I miss it. He passed 5 years ago, and Mom passed 10 years ago, and anyway, again, a lot of influence, a lot of impact, and it was exciting times for my life.
So Kenny, let's get into the meat and potatoes of why you're actually famous. You've been in a few movies. Tell us about those movies.
Yeah, basically when I was 10, moving from Missouri to the state of Michigan, it wasn't too far from South Bend, Notre Dame, and a friend of mine named Larry invited me to go to an exhibition football game, Chicago Bears and the Cleveland Browns. And he kept asking me wanting to go because they were shooting the movie Brian's Song, some scenes in that area, and he wanted me to go with him, but didn't know that until later, as didn't go, a missed opportunity where Larry and his dad and brother, and I believe his uncle, were sitting in front of the movie people that was playing parts of the Gale Sayers and Brian Piccolo wives, and they would show me at least 2 or 3 times. That was a missed opportunity.
So that's the one that got away.
That got away from me.
Well, you had better luck later on, though. What's the movies that you were in?
The movie Rudy, and as most people know in this life,
It's an iconic football movie.
It's you talk about inspiring. I mean, and Dan Rudiker, Rudy, and again, had the opportunity. I had football players, 11 of them came to my brother's house, and we had dinner, and they recommended, matter of fact, myself and my brother to go down to apply for a part in the movie Rudy, and 2 weeks later we got the call to be in the background, and I wound up being in 3 scenes in the movie Rudy, and they showed me in 2, but again, it's been several years ago, but still today, very, very inspiring movie.
That is an iconic movie. And you were in 2. They cut 3 scenes with you, but they only showed 2 in the movie.
They can show me in 2. You can see me in 2, but the one is when I'm walking right in front of the camera. I had a beard and a knitted sock hat on, and right before the leprechaun.
I've seen that part.
Yeah, that's where they show me, and even though it's not a talking part, but the thing is, it's an honor to be able to be a part of a history of a college and a university that it's undescribable. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you know.
Kenny, what other movies were you in?
They called me on the movie Kill Shot. And
Is that in Cape Girardeau?
it was in Cape, and also Gone Girl.
So you tried out to be an extra in those movies?
Absolutely.
Did you make the cut in those movies?
They called me on both of them. And again, they took some scenes out on the movies from Cape. Not all of them, but the ones that I was in, they took them to a different state. But I did get paid for it, and it was also opportunity to rub elbows with some people, like your Mickey Rourke's, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and even, like I said, the opportunity to be able to direct one of the directors. I forgot his name, but he was there as well in the movie Kill Shot. I got a chance to meet him.
There was a big buzz around Cape Girardeau. I remember when Gone Girl was being shot, and it brought a lot of good things to the local economy there. Did you have to show up every day to try to get on that set?
Basically, you spend the day what they want you to do, and then they said they'll call you back. And then usually what you do, you wait for the call back, and maybe sometime it may be 2 days, it may be a week, but if they need you again, they'll call you. And in both movies, they did call me back, just not once, but they called me back like 2 to 3 times.
So have you always been a Fighting Irish fan your whole life?
When I left Missouri again, when I went to Michigan, didn't want to leave St. Louis area because of the St. Louis Cardinals. But I left in the 1969 and 70. I became a University of Notre Dame fan. That's when 𝐷𝗫𝗄, Joe Theismann, was there, and the local TV station, it was an attraction to me to where I started watching it, and next thing you know, I didn't know how far away Notre Dame was, university, from where I was living at in the state of Michigan. It was 22 miles apart, and it was not very far away. So it just led me towards to being a fan. And again, winning tradition. You know, when you have a winning tradition, I think people like to win. There's nothing wrong with losing. I think losing is a part of life. When you could take losing, to me, you're a winner, because you don't always win in life. You'll have your downfalls and negativities, but when you can accept losing, then to me, you're a winner. But Notre Dame is, you know, not lately, not like used to be stuff, but again, their tradition has been a winner.
So we can't tell by your wardrobe that you're a Fighting Irish fan, you know.
Lou Holtz, man. Lou Holtz came in my life, Barry, back in 1988. And again, like I said, Chris Orridge to Rocket, Ismail, Jerome Bettis, the list goes on and on. Rick Meyer. I mean, I've just been fortunate and blessed to be able to, and I've been asked a lot of times, was you a alumni? Was you a student? I said, no, I wasn't. It's just how God allowed the door to be open for me in my life.
But fortunately, you never left the St. Louis Cardinals, America's team. So you're still with the Cardinals back then and today.
Absolutely.
But you switched over to the Fighting Irish.
Yeah.
And you became a friend with Lou Holtz, the coach, legendary coach.
Yeah. Coming down the hallway, I was at the hallway, and here he come, and I just briefly asked him as he stopped. I said, Lou, to me, you're the greatest coach, one of the greatest coaches of all time. He said, I appreciate that, but he said, I'm just doing my job, young man, and I appreciate it again. But
he actually wrote you a letter in one of the books. I'd like for you to read that to our audience. He wished you a happy birthday and sent you a book. Or did you get that in person?
Got that in person, again, but there's a story behind that to where it led me up to him.
Okay.
And again, it was just totally a situation. I had my nephew, my dad with me. And you know, nature calls where you have to do certain things. And my nephew needed to do what he had to do, and we went and got it taken care of. And again, after we left, there was Lou Holtz coming out of the door, and it just worked out perfectly to be able to talk to him. And you know, you have lines, and I'm not too good to be in line when you want something done. A lot of times people say, well, I want it now, but in life, you have to be able to realize that it don't come easy. You have to work at it. So there's been times, autographs, pictures, whatever is one thing, but being patient with it, again, knowing that your time is coming. But it worked out that night that I didn't have to get in line. It just worked where I got it taken care of, and he was glad to see me. I was glad to see Lou, and he said, we go back a ways. I said, we sure do, buddy.
I like this letter that he wrote you.
To Kenny Stroup, happy birthday. Don't count the years, but make the years count. It is a pleasure to call you a friend. We have shared a lot of memories together. Lou Holtz.
Can't beat that. How many interactions do you think you've had with Lou Holtz over the years?
100. I don't know, give or take, you know, and a lot of them was brief. There wasn't what you call longevity, because if you know Lou Holtz, he's on the go. And still in the 80s, his years now, he's still on the go. And to me, that's a good thing. That could be a good thing. But a lot of great, just one-on-one, good to see you, how things going, take care of yourself. But I'll never forget the one that when Florida State was playing Notre Dame. And so happened I walk, here he come, and I asked him, I said, he's having a game that day, and at Notre Dame Stadium, and I said, are you ready to play him? Florida State was #1 and Notre Dame was #2. And I said, are you ready, Lou? He said, Kenny, I ain't got no choice. And he just kept walking. They knocked off the #1 team that day, buddy. You know, I'll never forget that memory.
It's a good feeling. Everybody likes a winner, don't they?
That's right, absolutely.
So what are some of the other players that you've encountered? I know you've been around that program for a long time, but you told me a story about when Chris Zorch's mom passed away, you communicated with him. Was his mom or his dad?
His mother. And I'll never forget it. That's been, you know, way, you know, years ago. And I just feel like reaching out to him because I met him, you know, before I wrote him. And what a guy. And still today, a great guy. It's just that, you know, nothing wrong with being close to your mom. I want to say that if I can, that there's nothing wrong to put your arm around your mom, tell her you love her, or even your dad. It's just that we need to be ourselves. And Chris, again, in that situation, it was his last game at the University of Notre Dame. They were playing in a bowl game, and they got done playing the game, and the story I recall is that when he got back home, he was trying to reach his mother, and he couldn't get no response. And then he hopped in the vehicle, and to go see, check on his mom. And when he found her, and she was gone. But again, I reached out to him in a caring way, in a way that I felt like I was supposed to. And within a week or so, he responded back to me. Thank you for responding and taking time to write him on the situation he was going through.
I'm sure he appreciated you actually taking the time and caring about the death in his family.
Absolutely. And it took off from there, Barry. I mean, you know, he's not the only one, but I can just go on and on. I used to write 750 to 1,000 letters a year with my hand.
Jerome Bettis, you become friends with the bus, right?
Bettis, yeah. Different situation with Jerome. I'll never forget asking him this question. I said, Jerome, I'll ask you 3. And he's standing right there in front of me. Before he left University of Notre Dame, I said, I like 3 things from you. He looked at me and said, what is it? I said, I want you to play for the Rams, St. Louis Rams. I said, I want you to make the Hall of Fame. But I said, number 3, never change. Never change. Be yourself. And
So the bus is a good guy then.
I said, so what do you think about that? He said, you telling me the truth. He made the Rams. He played St. Louis for a little while, made the Hall of Fame. And I seen him 13 years later after I talked to him, Barry. And I said, you know, I want to see him. Here he was in a limo inside Notre Dame parking. And again, I've been in Notre Dame a lot in my life, and I didn't know for sure. But when I seen him from a distance, I kind of felt like he was leaving. So I went around, out of respect, talked to security. They said, well, you can't bother him. I said, if he sees me, he'll remember me. So when they pulled out in that gate, he had the limo driver to stop. He rolled the window down. And I said, buddy, you still haven't changed, man. You're still, he said, I love you, man. I love you too, buddy. So that was 13 years apart. So he was still the real deal.
Now, one of the coaches recently just passed away, and you actually attended his funeral, right? One of the Notre Dame coaches?
Matter of fact, Rudy, that was Rudy's coach, and it was 𝐅𝐿 𝐼𝐶𝐾𝐄𝐽. And I guess it's been maybe around 3 years ago or so now.
Was it 3 years?
When he passed, and what an opportunity. And again, I got to be in his office, met with Era before, different times, and it's just in me, Barry, to, I'm a guy that want to get things accomplished, but I want people to know that I'm the real deal, man. I care for the people. Regardless of these autographs, this is incentive, this is extra, this is like a bonus to me. But when I walk away from somebody, if it's a letter or if it's talking to somebody, I want them to have the impact and pressure for me that they can trust this guy. And that's where I've been, I think, successful.
Well, that's a good trait for everybody to have. It doesn't cost anything to be nice to people, does it?
No, it don't. And I don't see why people don't get that to an extent. We still got good people. We hear a lot of bad, but there's a lot of good people still out there that, again, that it means a lot to know, like a Lou Holtz. Jerry Faust, man, what a guy. What a guy Jerry Faust is. Amazing. I mean, he just totally unbelievable how we hit it off. I just talked to him on the phone this week, matter of fact, to let him know that, again, that I appreciate him, I love him, I care about him. And he said, Kenny, he said, he's been around a lot of people. He said, you know them all. I said, and here he's telling me that this guy's done a lot of stuff. Mike Golick was his first recruit, matter of fact.
I can't believe they haven't made you an honorary captain or gave you an honorary doctorate or some type of honorary alumnus.
Yeah. Well, Lou, Bob Davey on one side, Lou on the other, and I'm walking down the sidewalk. And I was telling him still, I said, I've been here all day, man, guiding people, directing people, having people to know which word this go, who. And he said, what can I say, Kenny? You're a part of us, man. You're a big time part of Notre Dame. And again, I just feel honored that the privileges I've got to do in my life of 50 years, totally, when I started liking Notre Dame, but 1988 is when it just took off for me, from Mike Bray to Muffet McGraw, unbelievable people. Even a lady named Karen, unbelievable.
Now, Coach McGraw just retired, right?
Just retired, give or take, I don't know exactly. I responded in November, not saying she took my advice, but I let her know that you'll know when it's time to let it go. And I'm getting goosebumps. I talk to you about it right now. And it wasn't long ago, buddy. She gave it up.
She's a very decorated women's coach from Notre Dame.
33 years. And I said, I've been with you ever since day one, not because I'm looking big about it, but I want you to know I care about you as a person, and I want you to be happy in what you do.
Well, let's move away from the Fighting Irish. You got some of these same tight relationships with some of the St. Louis Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Like Ozzie Smith.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just heard just recently when I called, he said, how long you known him? I said, 26, 27 years. I lost track of it. But every time it was like a high five or a knuckle five or a hug, glad to see each other. Again, when you're still in that spotlight, that limelight and success that he was, he's still popular. And sometimes it's not easy to get to these people unless you have an appointment with them. But it was just totally that when he see me, I see him, it was just something there that we stuck over the years that now it's built up to where, he trusts me and I trust him, and I think that's great. That's one to where, again, you're talking maybe even the owner. I mean, people say, nah, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm not. Several times the owner, it's just when he sees me, he just like smiles and glad to see me. He just wrote me back at Christmas, just past Christmas. And I mean, just stuff like that to where, again, I feel honored and fortunate. Mike Shannon's another one. Many, many opportunities with Shannon. Jack Buck, the statue of Jack Buck. I didn't get to go to the honorary statue that time they had him that day, and I wanted to go so bad, but I couldn't make it. 2 weeks later, I go to a doubleheader, and guess who walks by his statue? Jack Buck. I got my picture with him, not once, but twice with that statue.
Well, we're probably going to hurt a lot of your Cardinal friends' feelings, but your favorite of all time, Stan the Man Musial, right? Stan,
what a guy. Now, I'm not the only one who's met him. There's a lot of people that has done far greater things than me, but the impact, impression, influence of his life, man, wow. With him several times, in his office about 3 times. And I asked him once, I said, you have time to play your harmonica? Because, buddy, it wasn't long after I said that, he pulled it out of his desk drawer and started playing the harmonica.
He was ready to go, huh?
Ready to go, man. Common, down-to-earth human being that we need more of today.
He's a true Cardinal.
True Cardinal.
He's the epitome of the Cardinal.
Absolutely. And then Ozzie, you can't, like you say about Ozzie Smith, my land, that guy, great to the fans, great to the people, again, and still that way today. I never forget the time, one of the times, many times I was with him, he said, I can't get out. He said, I'd like to get out, but he said, we'll take a picture right here with my dad. I want one with my dad, and took a picture together, and I said, I respect that, Ozzie. I understand why you can't get out of your car, buddy.
Speaking of that, I remember a couple years ago, you invited me to go to a game with you, and it was Pat Murphy who is the bench coach or pitching coach for the Milwaukee Brewers. You got to spend some time with him
Sure
at
did.
Busch Stadium.
Absolutely. I think now time gets away. I think it's been over a couple of years ago now since I've seen him, but it was several years before I had seen him before. And but when he heard my name, not to say my name's greater than anybody else, but when he heard my name, he wanted to see me.
That was the old Fighting Irish connection there, right?
Connection, yeah. He was at Notre Dame back in the 80s as a baseball coach at Notre Dame, and I asked him from a distance, I said, can I talk to you? I said, I'll wait for you because he's out in the outfield. He said, no, come on out here in the outfield, man, talk to me. And we hit it off from there. 30 years later, we're still friends, man, you know. And I got to see him again. They let me have an opportunity to take me back and got a chance to talk with him.
I think you got to go down the dugout a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was right by the dressing room, matter of fact, you know. So, yeah, I really, he was smiling when he see me, smiling. A lot of this time, Barry, I get the smiles from people. I'm glad to smile instead of a frown or maybe, you know, oh, I don't want to see him. But most of my situations in my life, man, it's been like Regis. He was glad to see me. I'll never forget the story about Regis. I'm going to go back to Notre Dame here, but again, there's so many memories.
You keep tying everything back to Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's just, again, a lot of memories. I mean, in my mind, just tons of it to where I said I'd like to see him before he, you know, he's supposed to be here. But I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and no Regis. So help me. There's no window, no nothing where you can see him. As I walk out the door, he's walking in the same door. He's walking in as I'm walking out. And he smiled and looked at me, man. We just lost him the other day. What a guy. What a guy.
So Regis is pretty much what you say is what you get. He was a great guy on and off the camera.
Off and on. He was quiet, like a lot of people. When you're on the camera, you more or less you're more or less at your work. But when he was off the camera, wasn't a whole lot he was saying. But when he was said, it was awesome stuff.
So Kenny, let's get into some of your celebrity meetings over the years, okay? Like Larry Bird, how was that encounter?
It was a situation where, see, you the way I feel about it, you get a feel of it. And when you get a feel of it, you just kind of wait for the moment to happen. You don't have to rush into it. If it's meant for it to happen, it'll happen. If not, then it wasn't meant to happen. But for some reason, in my situations, there's something telling me before I do it to do it, most of my cases. But with him, that's the way it happened with him. Again, it was an event that took place, but then when he went inside, then he come back out within a few minutes. He says, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. In other words, it was something that he was not comfortable with. Mm-hmm. So I waited, and then when I waited a little bit, I just kind of felt like that maybe I have an opportunity here to maybe speak or say something that encourage him, or maybe say something that will lift him up, and that's what I did.
So you've had interactions with Magic Johnson, George Jones, Charlie Daniels. That's a good story about Charlie Daniels. He invited you up on the bus last time you saw him, right?
Yes, he did.
He just passed away. So
he just passed. Again, different occasions with him. And again, most of the time when I was with him, it was more like the spiritual aspect of life, talking about, you know, God, and even having prayer, you know, event in the Valparaiso, Indiana story that he was fixing to go on stage. I had my brother and my two nephews with me, and they told me to stand right beside the door. He's getting to come out, fixing to come out. And when he came out, he lit up like a Christmas tree. He was glad to see me, and I'm glad to see him. Hugged necks. He said, I got to get on stage. He said, walk with me. I said, this is my brother, this is my nephew. I want you to say hi. He said, okay. He said hi to him. He said, give these guys tickets, meet me after the show, Kenny, and we'll talk some more. I said, okay. What a talent, what a gift, what a guy.
Yep, we just lost him. He's an American icon.
Yes, he is.
So what some of your other encounters, like some of them weren't encounters, like Barbara Streisand, John Travolta, Sophia Loren?
I would write these people. I've never met these people, but I have written these people many times in my life.
Yeah, we've got some of your stuff here. Let's just look at some of this stuff to the audience.
And even Susan Sarandon, too.
John Travolta, he interacts with you a lot, right, for his letters?
Last 25, 26 years.
Just lost his life. How many times have you communicated with him? Just lost his wife?
He just lost his wife, yes. Probably in a 25, 26 year span, probably 100, 150 times.
And he always writes back.
He responds back either through a response like a note, like on a picture or some kind of signing. And he's good to the fans. He's good to the people. Fantastic. He's hard to beat, but what a guy. What a great man.
You got a personal message here from Susan Sarandon. Does she communicate with you a lot?
Just recently. Just got that about 3 months ago or so. And, she was impressed with my book. And I thought that was really, really nice of her to take the time to do that.
Very nice.
And I thought that was something to cherish.
Elizabeth Taylor says, thanks for your wonderful support and well wishes. So, Kenny, were you trying to be her 12th husband on this one or what?
It was, again, reaching out to her in a caring, kind way to where, again, I think it was early 90s when I got it. And, again, that's how she felt. I didn't tell her to write that, It's just something that she felt that she could trust me. It's back to that trust again. And nowadays, especially, it's getting tougher, Barry, to find trust in people. On my tombstone, I want the word to be put on it. There was a man you could trust. That's what my goal is. Yeah, that's one of many, many items that man has done for me. And I've wrote towards these people. It's not how much money they got, how much fame or fortune they got. It's get into the inner being part of that person, like a Streisand. They say she's tough to get to, and still probably today. But what I wrote her, like I did Sincerity, not the only one that has got response from her in the past, but she responded her way was to send me album covers, posters, pictures, and this is what the response I got back.
You must have a warehouse full of just memorabilia.
I've been told to
don't give the address, somebody might want it.
I've been told many times to get rid of it, sell it. I said I didn't get into that for that. It's like a ministry to me. It's something that I feel like I'm supposed to do. It's meeting them, writing them, or whatever the case may be. It's just that I enjoy what I do in life. I enjoy it.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. You've done George Klein and Cousin Carl's radio shows several times, right?
Yes, I have.
Tell the audience who George Klein is if they don't know him.
George Klein.
Actually, he just passed away within the last...
He passed a couple years ago.
George Klein, he was...
About a year and a half ago.
He was
Elvis's, he went from 8th grade all the way to school with Elvis to being great friends with him. He was a pallbearer for Elvis. Matter of fact, the ring he's got on there, Elvis gave it to him. Matter of fact, was allowed to go to Graceland. Been in 8 movies with Elvis, matter of fact, but he took a liking to me.
And he did the Elvis channel even up till his death about 2 years ago.
Yes,
XM and Sirius Radio, right?
Absolutely.
Elvis Radio.
Then he done another show in Memphis, Memphis Sounds they call it, and there was other stuff. I don't know how.
And you've done that show many times with him, George Klein.
The Sirius XM show, yes. And my job with him, I've done 7 interviews with him over the years of Sirius XM. But my job with him is to be a correspondent to where I've set up interviews, to get interviews for him. And one of the last things he said to me, he said, thanks for all you've done for me. And to me, that was an honor. And matter of fact, I just found out some stuff just recently that, being a great friend, I didn't know how much he meant or I meant to him. But I just found out this week through a friend.
So what did y'all talk about on the show?
Basically, again, like I say, from the man that started off where he knew where Cape Girardeau, because he'd been to Cape Girardeau before, not a long, long ways from Cape to Memphis, but he was letting me know when I sat there. He said, "Who is that guy that's from Cape Girardeau?" And I said, "Rush Limbaugh." And he got a big smile on his face after talk. We talked about music, 2 of my experiences in my life with people, and the things that him and me more or less again was working together.
So y'all didn't just talk about Elvis music and country music, y'all talked about life in general.
Life in general. Phone calls, he would call me, I'd call back. Many, many conversations with him, and I felt honored with it.
So what about Cousin Carl, though? You done Cousin Carl's show several times too, right?
Yes, I have. What a guy Cousin Carl is still today. And matter of fact, I heard he had prostate cancer. And I believe he's trying to recover over that. And I did speak to him not too long ago, and he was, again, getting his strength back. But yeah, great interview, again with him many times. And he's been a help to me.
We'll just wish Cousin Carl a speedy recovery, if that's true.
Absolutely. Again.
So what did you and Cousin Carl talk about? Just your life experiences also?
Life experiences too, to where he said one time, he said, "Now I'm gonna have to get back with this guy, folks, because he's done more than a little bit." He said, "So I have to make it, where I can do what I can today and then get back with him." And I'm trying to be humble about that, because there's people that I'm proud of. I want to say this. No matter who you are out there, I'm glad for all your success. I want things to go well with you, and I'm not in competition with nobody. It's just that God has just allowed my life to be the way it is today.
Well, Kenny, let's get into your writing skills. You want to? You actually have, what, 4 published books?
Yes.
You can get them on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Mm-hmm. But your first book, I believe, was Celebrity One-Liners and Quotes. Mm-hmm. And that was published in, what year was that published?
That was back in like the late 2000s, maybe like 2008 or so.
Then we got Being at the Right Place at the Right Time. Mm-hmm. I've got my own autographed copy of this one. Mm-hmm. And we've got a 5-letter word called money.
Mm-hmm. Which I think they just put that on Walmart.com.
Walmart.com and Amazon.
They're talking about it.
So, what got you into writing? Not many people in Southeast Missouri have books published.
Inspired by people. Again, back to Chris Zorich, to maybe Sophia Loren, just in getting response back. If that don't encourage you, if that don't give you, some kind of incentive and drive to do something, then I've been told you should write them experiences down in a book. So that's what I started doing in 1995. So if you're out there and thinking, why is my book not getting this far? Don't give up. Keep going. Keep pursuing. Eventually something will open up if you believe that your book will be that good enough. And I'm not saying mine's the greatest. I enjoy what I do. I'm back to what I enjoy. I enjoy writing people, write my experiences down to be able to hopefully help somebody else.
We forgot one book though. What was it? Something about crueler.
Jealousy is crueler than the grave.
Amen, it is.
And it really is sad because it don't have to be that way, because success, back to the word success again, it's not about me, it's about others being successful. And when you have that in you, then you're going to be successful.
I've read this book, 5-letter word called money. It's a very good book.
Appreciate it. Matter of fact, I've got you in there, and I'm proud and honored to put you in there, buddy.
Well, thank you. I was honored for you to put me in the book.
I appreciate you very much, man. You, to me, is special, and again, it's just that I feel like we need more people like yourself, buddy.
Thank you. So what inspires you to write books?
It's because of reaching out to people again, that where you could maybe say something that will direct their life. And I've had that happen. When a little kid come up to you and say, hey, thank you, because that's what I want to do. And, and I said, I read your book. I enjoyed reading it. I really, again, not to be wealthy when it comes to money with it. It's just the wealth to me also is to hear things like that, or have turned their life completely around. Like when I was down to California, which, again, that, being example, bringing things out, being a person that by experience, that maybe something you say in a book or maybe a letter that will reach them, touch their hearts.
So what inspires you to do that? I know you always talk about your faith. Faith's been a big part of your life. So give me an example of how your faith has took you to the heights that you've been taken to in your career.
Well, believe it or not, when you hear the word no, I put it into yes. Because to me, no is a part of life. And I have heard that so many times, that regardless if it's a relationship with a girl, trying to get the lady, trying to get a car, trying to get whatever it may be, it's never put me to where I quit. I may hear people say, won't you give it up? Stop, man, you're not going. I said, you'd be surprised how far I'm getting. You just don't know it. But I believe that's in me. That's the drive I have in me, to where I just don't never give up. Because the word no to me is just like, I just shake it off and go on, because you have to realize there's brighter things happen. Things will open up for you, man, if you don't quit. I'm just not a quitter like Rudy. He never quit. He kept going with it. Next thing you know, he's in a tri-star picture movie, So.
Well, speaking of that, your faith has guided your whole life. You've got a great story about when you played Little League. You're the smallest guy on the team. Tell us that story, because even back when you were a young toddler, you had to have faith, right?
Yeah. Well, littlest kid playing. I didn't know that till later, but I was the smallest kid playing. And there's 3 Little League games going at the same time. And there's more games a lot of times now today, but I mean, back then, again, the coach said to me, Charlie Wilson, I'll never forget him. His son went on to play with Kurt Gibson, Michigan State, and all that. But he's in behind the backstop. But his dad said, get out there and pitch. I said, I'm too little, Mr. Wilson. I can't do that. I'm too young. You're too little, too small. He said, you listen to your coach. So I go out there, and when I got out there, I was nervous, man. Nervous. And when I started pitching, my release was a curveball, and I struck out all 3 of them kids. The coach gets on the knees, over to the side, I can see him, tipped his cap in the air. He said, stars are being born every day. His son's behind the backstop, smiling from ear to ear. I'm saying, here's a guy who plays Michigan State with Kurt Gibson and stuff, and he's smiling at me. Next thing you know, the drawing of the magnet, here's what happens. The dugouts, the places like the other games going on, people were coming over to watch me pitch. And I will never forget it. After that, they come, a lot of people would come, and that backstop would be crammed full of people to come see me.
You wasn't too short anymore, was you?
Wasn't too short no more, and it put a drive in me by him saying that, put encouragement in me to say, hey, you can do it. So I'm trying to tell you today, you can do it if you want to do it, but you don't let negativity stop you.
Well, Kenny, let's talk about your ultimate goal. This is your sales pitch. You know, we've talked to a couple of movie producers.
Okay.
They come in from Hollywood.
Yes.
They've talked to you about producing a movie about the magnet.
Yes.
So your goal is to make a movie about all this stuff you've done over the last 50 years.
Yeah, a long time, yeah.
So tell us your goals with the movie. What do you hope to accomplish? Where do you feel like you're at? We know COVID has slowed things down, but
Yes.
where are we at on your movie process?
I feel that right now, like you said, due to this virus going on, that it has slowed things, but I've always tried to keep going and not quit and just take every day to make it positive, landing people, connecting with people. So I felt like if I'm connecting people, getting people to want to be involved with this movie, then there's something going right with this. Then these guys come in again from LA, not having a clue that they're going to come to me again towards the fact of interested just to talk to me. I felt like that was an honor. So when I had that going beforehand, I was still plugging away with writing, meeting people, talking to people. But my goal, again, is to reach the inner part of the people. So with a movie with these guys, the people that be interested in putting this together, my main objection is to make sure that I'm trying to reach the people in a good, positive direction where the goal of a movie is not to be so famous or being popular when it comes to being, well, it's just knowing that God is pleased with me, and I believe He's pleased with me of knowing that what I've accomplished in my life over the years, that this movie can be very successful. With the right scenario, right combination, right people, well, this thing will take off and go. I believe that.
Well, Kenny, we want to wish you the best with your movie project. Hope COVID don't slow it down too much, but thank you for being here on Very Interesting today. Wish you all the best on your movie.
It's an honor to be with you, buddy. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning in to Very Interesting. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. If you did, share it with your friends. Aycorp Media on Facebook or YouTube. And I'm looking really forward to next week's guest, Mary White Ross. She's a pioneer in the African American movement here in Southeast Missouri and at one time in Chicago, Illinois. And also, there will be a segment on a new book that Dr. Frank Nickel and former State Representative Jerry Ford has just completed. And the name of that book is called Seth. It's named after General Seth McKee. He was a great American war hero from right here in Southeast Missouri. You won't want to miss it.